The fluorescent lights in the gleaming atrium of Hawthorne Industries flickered against polished marble floors, reflecting the power and precision that ran through every corner of the building. People moved like clockwork, suits crisp and shoes shiny, their conversations clipped and efficient. At the far end of the lobby, near a row of massive glass windows, a man in a faded janitor's uniform knelt with a mop and bucket, his movements steady and deliberate. His name was Miguel Alvarez, and for 3 years he had worked quietly, unnoticed except for the faint scent of lemon cleaner he left in his wake. Most of the employees passed him by without a glance, too consumed by deadlines and meetings. But one person always noticed him, at least lately. He was a boy of 8 with dark hair and a habit of wandering down from the CEO's private floor to where Miguel worked. His name was Ethan Hawthorne, son of Victoria Hawthorne, the famously impenetrable CEO of the company. The boy would sit on the edge of a leather chair near the lobby and watch Miguel mop, sometimes asking questions about his life or his mop water or why the tiles shone like mirrors. Miguel answered with patience, smiling through the ache in his back. One rainy afternoon, Miguel noticed Ethan peering at a vending machine that stubbornly refused to give up his bag of peanut MS. The boy's small fists pounded on the glass. Miguel set down his mop and ambled over. With a practiced hand, he gave the machine a careful shake at just the right angle. The candy fell. Ethan's eyes widened in surprise. "How'd you do that?" Miguel grinned. "Experience," he said. "Sometimes machines just need a little kindness." From that moment, Ethan began appearing more often. He liked to draw on scraps of discarded paper Miguel saved for him, or sometimes he would follow Miguel into the maintenance corridor to peek at all the tools. The janitor never overstepped, never asked about the boy's famous mother, but he offered what he could: patience, small lessons, and the kind of warmth that had long been missing from Ethan's days. Victoria Hawthorne noticed. She had worked too hard and too long to let her carefully constructed world tilt out of control. As CEO of one of the most profitable technology conglomerates in the country, her time was measured in quarter hours and revenue projections. Her son had been raised largely by nannies, tutors, and security staff, and she justified it all as necessary. But when she descended into the lobby one late evening and found Ethan sitting cross-legged on the polished floor, sketching while Miguel showed him how to fold paper cranes, something inside her snapped. "You're not supposed to be near my son," she said sharply, her voice cutting through the quiet like glass breaking. The boy flinched, but Miguel merely looked up, his brown eyes calm. "He came to me," Miguel said softly. Victoria's heels clicked across the marble as she approached. "That's not the point. You asked off. He is my son. Do you understand the difference?" Her tone was icy, accustomed to compliance. Miguel straightened slowly, setting down the mop handle with deliberate care. "I understand he's a boy who looks lonely," he said. "And I understand he's a boy who could use a little kindness." For a moment Victoria was stunned. No one spoke to her that way. I am not the board, not investors, not even political leaders who sought her support. Something about the quiet steadiness of the janitor unsettled her, though she'd never admit it. "Stay away from him," she hissed, but her voice lacked some of its earlier force. "This will be your only warning." She grabbed Ethan by the arm and led him toward the private elevator. The boy glanced back once, eyes wide with apology, before the doors slid shut. Miguel bent and picked up the paper crane Ethan had dropped. He set it gently on the edge of his mop bucket like a small paper sentinel. That night, Miguel sat alone in his small apartment above a grocery store 2 train stops away. The place smelled faintly of old wood and cilantro from the shop below. He placed the paper crane on his kitchen table and stared at it while memories pressed in, memories of his own son, Gabriel, who had died 5 years earlier from a rare congenital heart condition. He had been 8, the same age as Ethan. Miguel had worked 2 jobs to pay for treatments, but in the end, it hadn't been enough. Since then, every small act of kindness he gave to a child felt like a quiet prayer, a weight to honor Gabriel's memory. In the weeks that followed, Ethan grew more distant at school and at home. Victoria received calls from his teachers about daydreaming and outbursts. She scolded him, but the boy's eyes grew sadder. She threw herself deeper into work. When she wasn't traveling, she stayed late in the office, unaware that Ethan still found ways to slip away and sit quietly in corners where Miguel worked. Miguel tried to respect Victoria's command. He didn't initiate conversation, but he never turned Ethan away either. One evening, he found Ethan crying in the stairwell, clutching his knees. "She's mad at me," Ethan whispered. "She says I'm always in the way." Miguel crouched, careful not to touch him. "Sometimes grown-ups get busy," he said gently. "It's not about you." "She doesn't even see me anymore," Ethan said. His voice cracked, and he wiped his eyes with his sleeve. Miguel's heart twisted. He knew that feeling too well from the nights he'd worked double shifts and missed Gabriel's bedtime stories, thinking there would always be more time. "You're not invisible," he said. "I see you." Something in his tone steadied the boy. He sniffled and managed a small smile. "Can you teach me how to make another crane?" Miguel hesitated, then nodded. "Okay, but quick." Meanwhile, Victoria's world began to shift in ways she couldn't control. A whistleblower scandal at the company, a sudden dip in stock value, and a board increasingly restless with her leadership all conspired to rattle her once unshakable composure. She began having nightmares about losing everything, about standing alone in an empty glass tower. And yet, whenever she saw her son's sketches or the little paper cranes he left on her desk, she felt an odd pang she couldn't name. The turning point came one stormy Friday night. Victoria stayed late at the office to finalize a critical deal. Thunder rolled outside, and the building was almost empty. Ethan, bored with the tablet games in her office, slipped away again. Down in the maintenance hall, a fuse blew, plunging part of the floor into darkness. A moment later, Victoria heard a crash and a cry echoing from the stairwell. She bolted down the corridor, her heels echoing like gunshots. She found Ethan halfway down the stairs, clutching the railing, his face pale. A loose tile had shifted under his foot and he'd twisted his ankle. Before she could reach him, Miguel appeared out of the darkness with a flashlight, kneeling beside the boy. "You're okay," Miguel murmured. "Let me see." "Don't touch him," Victoria barked, her voice trembling. Miguel looked up at her, the flashlight beam catching his lined face. "He's hurt," he said simply. "We need to get him out of here." For a heartbeat they stared at each other, two people from opposite ends of the world, bound by a frightened child. Then Victoria saw Ethan clutching Miguel's sleeve and something inside her cracked. She dropped to her knees beside them. "I'm here, baby," she whispered to Ethan. "Mum's here." Miguel helped her lift the boy gently. Together they carried him to the lobby, where security called an ambulance. In the elevator, while doctors examined Ethan's ankle, Victoria sat beside Miguel in the waiting room, her designer suit smeared with dust from the stairwell. She realized she had no one else to call, no one else who had been there, just the janitor she had ordered away. She turned to him. "Why do a broken bar care so much?" she asked, her voice unsteady. Miguel stared at his hands. "I had a son," he said finally. "He was Ethan's age when he died. Every time I see your boy, I think about how much I wish someone had been there for mine. I can't a broken bar not care." Victoria blinked back sudden tears. She hadn't cried in years, not even when her marriage ended, not even when her own father died. "I didn't know," she whispered. "You didn't ask," Miguel said gently, without reproach. Something shifted between them, a quiet recognition of shared grief and responsibility. She thought about the boy she had left in the care of strangers, the nights she had missed because of work. And she thought about the janitor who had stepped into that gap, not for pay, not for praise, but because of simple humanity. When Ethan was released from the hospital with a soft cast and crutches, Victoria insisted Miguel ride with them in the company car. The boy leaned against Miguel's shoulder, half asleep, while the city lights slid past. Victoria watched them both, feeling like she was seeing her son and herself for the first time. Over the following weeks, Victoria changed. Slowly, awkwardly, but undeniably. She left the office earlier. She sat at the dinner table with Ethan, even when he only wanted cereal. She apologized to him for the first time. And one afternoon, she found herself inviting Miguel to sit with them in the company cafe. Copyright rather than eating in the janitor's closet. "You're good with him," she said softly while Ethan sipped hot chocolate. Miguel shrugged. "He's a good kid." "You've done more for him than I have lately," she said, surprising herself with the honesty. "I want to do better." Miguel met her gaze. "Then start with time," he said. "Kids don't remember the presents or the meetings. They remember if you were there." Victoria nodded, feeling the truth of it land like a stone in still water.